Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're diving into how a new technology, Audicor's Holter is really changing the game by getting the whole story from your heart. We're talking about a way to get a much cleaner, way more meaningful signal for long-term cardiac monitoring. And that is absolutely critical for understanding tricky conditions like atrial fibrillation. So let's start with a puzzle. Imagine you're a cardiologist and you're trying to diagnose a heart rhythm problem that might only pop up for a few seconds over an entire day. It's like trying to find a ghost in the machine. So how on earth do you catch something that's here 1 second and gone the next? Well, for decades, the answer has basically been a high-tech game of hide and seek. The go-to tool for this is the Holter monitor. It's designed specifically to catch what doctors call paroxysmal events. You know, those super brief, elusive episodes that a quick ECG and the doctor's office would almost definitely miss. Now, a traditional Holter is pretty straightforward. It's basically a portable ECG that you wear for 24, maybe 48 hours, while you just go about your life. And its real power is in connecting the dots, linking a symptom you feel, like a weird flutter or a moment of dizziness, directly to what your heart's electrical system was doing at that exact same time. But there's a huge problem with this traditional approach, and it's something called signal artifact. The best way to think about it is just static, like on an old radio. It's all this electrical noise that gets mixed in with the real heartbeat signal, and it makes the data incredibly messy. So where does all this static come from? Well, just about everywhere. Simple everyday life stuff, walking around, bending over, that creates interference. Even tiny muscle tremors can create signals that look a lot like heart activity. And then you throw in our modern environment, buzzing with interference from our phones and microwaves, plus simple things like a loose electrode, and you've got a recipe for a really corrupted signal. And the impact of this is massive. This noise doesn't just make the recording look a little messy. It seriously tanks the signal quality. It makes it incredibly difficult for both the computer software and the human clinician to be totally sure of what they're actually seeing. And here's why that's such a big deal. You can get false positives, where random noise actually looks like a real arrhythmia, which is a big problem. Or, and this might be even worse, you get false negatives, where a real cardiac event happens, but it gets completely lost in the static, totally hidden. This can lead to misdiagnoses, treatment delays, or having to do the whole test all over again. So it really makes you wonder, if just listening to the electrical signal is so flawed and so noisy, what else should we be listening for? What part of the heart story are we completely missing? And this brings us to a really smart solution: acoustic cardiography. The idea is simple but powerful. Let's move beyond just the electrical signal and start listening to the heart's actual physical sounds at the very same time, the mechanics of the pump itself. Okay, so let's look at the difference. A traditional Holter, it gives you one stream of data, the electrical ECG. That's it. But the Audicor Holter gives you this rich, multi-layered picture. You still get the ECG, of course, but it adds two brand new layers: the mechanical sounds of the heart and the patient's actual motion, thanks to an accelerometer. Now, this is where the magic happens, because you can cross-check everything. Let's say the ECG suddenly looks chaotic. With the old method, that's an immediate alarm. But now, the doctor can ask, okay, did we hear a corresponding heart sound? If the answer is no, it's almost certainly just noise. This also gives us incredible context, showing if a rhythm issue happens during exercise, or maybe only when someone is sleeping. But here's the thing, it's not just about cleaning up the signal. The real game changer is the brand new health insights we can get directly from those heart sounds. This is where we go from just detecting an event to actually understanding the heart's underlying mechanical function. So, the first key measurement here is something called EMAT, or electromechanical activation time. It's the super tiny delay between the electrical spark telling the heart to pump, that's the Q wave, and the physical thump of the valve slamming shut, which is the S1 sound. This is a direct measurement of how efficiently the heart is working. And this isn't just some abstract number either. There are clear clinical thresholds. When that delay, the EMAT, takes up more than 15% of the whole cardiac cycle, it's a really strong sign of left ventricular dysfunction. Basically, it means the heart's main pumping chamber is struggling. Building on that, the system then calculates a systolic dysfunction index, or SDI. Think of it as this powerful all-in-one score. It combines the EMAT, the presence of an extra heart sound called S3, and other ECG data into a simple number from 0 to 10. And the takeaway is easy. A score over 5 is a big red flag that the heart isn't pumping as well as it should be. You know, those extra heart sounds, they're like incredible clues. An S3 sound, for instance, often points to the heart being overloaded with fluid. Its strength can actually help predict if atrial fibrillation will come back after treatment. Then there's the S4 sound, which usually means the ventricle is stiff, maybe from years of high blood pressure. These are clues that help a doctor figure out the cause of the problem and give a much clearer prognosis. Okay, so let's put all this together. How does this comprehensive monitoring help us connect the dots between some really complex things? We're going to look at the fascinating relationship between AFib, sleep, and actual physical scarring of the heart muscle. Check this out. Data from the Respire study shows this link so clearly. It found that the chances of having significant AFib were nearly double in patients who also had severe sleep apnea. And because this new device has an accelerometer, it can monitor for breathing issues during sleep right alongside the heart rhythms, giving us a perfect window into this crucial connection. So what's the physical thing connecting sleep apnea and AFib? Well, a ton of research points to one main culprit, cardiac fibrosis. You can basically think of it as scar tissue forming on the heart's electrical wiring, which messes up the normal signals. This creates the perfect breeding ground for AFib to start and stick around. Now, this device doesn't see the scars directly, but by measuring the heart's mechanical function, it gives powerful clues about its underlying structural health. And all of this really brings us to the fundamental shift here. This technology isn't just a small upgrade, it's about a whole new way of understanding the heart's entire story, not just a tiny piece of it. When you step back, this is the real takeaway. We are moving away from just staring at a single, often noisy electrical line. We can now build this incredible, multidimensional story of a person's heart health that pulls together electrical signals, mechanical function, and the real-world context of their daily life. And this leaves us with a really exciting, forward-looking question. As we get better and better at capturing the heart's whole story, can we finally make the leap from just reacting to disease after it happens to actually predicting and maybe even preventing it from starting in the first place? That's the future this technology is pointing towards.